such a long time.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Welcome to Mike's Daily Podcast. My name is Mike Matthews.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
This is a show that I haven't done in a while, and I'm going to tell you why. I had the Moderna vaccine and I'd started to cry because it made me have all kinds of chills, and then I got all achy, and then I still have some issues. Like I got a migraine yesterday. I haven't had a migraine in so long.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Since I was in my 30s. That's how long ago it's been since I had a migraine. And I had one yesterday. Thank you,
Mike's
Moderna.
Daily
I blame you,
Podcast.
Moderna.
Yeah!
Isn't it odd that I would criticize a vaccine when I have been so like, oh, vaccines are good. What? There's nothing wrong with vaccines. By the way, I'm going to list for you all 54 ingredients of not the vaccine, but of a Big Mac. Riboflavin, alum, there's a little bit of beef. Propylon glycol alginate, soy lecithin, ascorbic acid, sodium citrate, high fructose corn syrup, soybean oil, hydrolyzed wheat, xanthan gum, citric acid, calcium chloride, polysorbate 80, potassium sorbate, datum, whatever the heck datum is. Is that the guy from Next Generation, Star Trek? Bread flour and egg yolks. And I haven't had one of those in, I bet you the next time I go on a road trip, I will have one of those, but no thank you. Because let me just put this to you in such a way, and that is, I'm at an age where I have to eat things in a way that are healthy things for me.
And here's today's podcast picture.
In that way. The podcast picture today, that's a good question, Mike. Thanks for asking it, A-Frame. What is it going to be? Somebody showed us that their cat, they give their cat Meowie-wana. It's basically catnip. Do you know who loved cats? Was this guy right here. Oh, yeah. He loved to bark at them cats. Those wonderful cats. Yes, he never lived with a cat, but loved to bark at him, the late great Basil the Boxer. I'll miss him so much. I will always say that. And yes, that gets a little redundant. But how about this nice podcast picture of the beautiful, we have these Easter blooms as we get close to, we passed Easter. Gosh, I am not keeping track of what's happening this year. We had tax day last week and it blew right past. And thankfully we got another tax day, May 17th. But dang, it's all flying by so fast. This podcast picture taken in Podcaster Valley. See it at mikesdailypodcast.com. I have not been feeling well, and I blame it on the Moderna, but I'll have to tell you this, that it gave me pause for thought. So I got the chills. I got the shot Tuesday. I told you I was getting it. Went to Pleasanton. Went to the Alameda County Fairgrounds. Waited in line for about 40 minutes in my car. Got my tax stuff ready because my tax person's in Pleasanton. Then drove over there afterwards. But I'm waiting. And there's all these little stops along the way where you have to fill out a form. Then you hand over the form. Then they give you that little card that everyone on the right is having a field day with the card. Oh, does that mean the government is going to take control and I won't be able to go anywhere without this card? Geez, you're worried about that, and you weren't worried about when Trump told you need to have the federal whatever that thing is on your driver's license, the federal card. It's the one that's can't fly anymore. I have to get a passport now just to fly to Florida. That's crazy. Because I didn't want that federal. It's going to be like an extra, I don't know how much, when I could just get my driver's license renewed basically for free. And whatever that government issued thing, and they don't make a single peep about that. But whoa, I get a card after I get vaccinated, and they may not let me into certain places without the card. Please. Oh. You know what? This is my podcast, and this is what I do, is because I work with conservative talk show hosts, and this is my little venting post where I get to say, look, your talking points are thin. Stop it. Come up with something very important and worth all of our time to talk about, not this conspiratorial crap. Please. Anywho, I've been not feeling well lately because of the Moderna. And I was the first one to say the vaccine, everyone should get vaccinated. And I don't like anti-vaxxers, and I still don't. But this is just a little, somebody told me, you know what, your body's fighting off. It's now fighting off stuff. And maybe you had the coronavirus last year. I know I got sick before everybody was talking about the coronavirus, before I think it was just starting to be talked about in China. I came down with something really nasty. And this is before we were all locking down and shutting down and all that. And I got something. I don't know what it was, but I did not feel well. And it could have been that. Maybe the Moderna, somebody told me that if you feel sick with the first shot, you might have had COVID. This guy that I know that had COVID, he got the first shot and didn't feel good. People that have not had it fly through with flying colors. They're flying. Me, not so much. So I got the chills. I felt achy and nasty, like I was coming down with something. And then I woke up in the middle of the night, and I start thinking about work. And I start thinking about all the stuff that's bugging me about work. And I'm seriously thinking about making a life change, because there's stuff at work that's bugging me. And there's stuff that I don't know for the long haul if I can continue on for the long haul. I'm an easygoing guy. I like my job for the most part. I like my job, but there's just some things, as I've mentioned on the show in the past. It's fine when you're dealing with stuff that doesn't vary much, right? As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valentino. It's the variables that throw us off. It's the commute to work. Who's going to drive slow in front of me today? It's the stuff at work. Who's going to be inconsistent and weird and moody today? It's the technical stuff at work. What is my computer going to work at work? Do I have to deal with technical problems today? It's all that variable stuff, and that happens with every job, but there's more and more stuff being thrown on me these days. And I don't know for the long haul if this is something that I'm capable of doing. I'm in my 50s now. Previous holders of this position, people who have done the job that people before me that have done this job that I'm doing now. One guy had a stroke. He didn't die, but he was incapacitated for a while and had to have some serious surgery about it, and still has not fully recovered. Another guy went nuts, had to be arrested. I heard one guy died. Like, on and on. It's not a good track record for the job that I have. So not feeling good with the Moderna shot made me think about what am I doing for the long haul? Is this something I want to keep doing? Because seriously, Mike Matthews has some options. Mike Matthews has a lot of options in front of him, and he's not getting any younger, and maybe there's some other stuff in life he'd like to do. Overall, Mike Matthews is very happy. He has his lovely lady friend who you heard on the last podcast. He's got a lot of friends. A lot of his coworkers are really awesome people. But there's the occasional person that just weasels their way into his life that throws it all off. And I'm not saying that's someone at work. I'm not saying that's a family member. I'm not saying that's someone who lives down the street from me. That's just something happening. And yeah, we all got to deal with that. That being said, I love the fact that here, people criticize people on the right, particularly criticize the COVID lockdowns. And it's funny because you do your own survey. This is, you will find the exact same thing I am. The people that make all the lockdown criticisms, like, oh my God, that state locked down just because of a little coronavirus. They get the coronavirus. Just look at the former president. Look at all the people around him. Look at most of the conservative talk show hosts have had the coronavirus. And it's so funny because they'll talk about, I had a couple sniffles. No, you know what? If this Moderna thing that I had, this vaccine shot, was supposed to show me a little bit about what I could have had, like a little potential side effects were symptoms, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. So, criticizing Biden because he's a little worried that we still have the coronavirus. That's completely criticizing Fauci, criticizing everybody that says, Gavin Newsom. Oh my gosh. Well, he killed businesses. All right, I don't agree with that, but that's still like, I'm gonna keep wearing my mask. But I will tell you that I did not feel well after the Moderna shot. Okay, so let's just say Mike Matthews decides to quit his job and retire early. Not a smart idea, but let's just say he did. Okay, so there's this person named Susie Orman, and I have produced in the past a financial radio guy, his show, Rob Black, very nice guy. I've worked with him now for about 6 years, and he likes to make fun of her. But let me read something that she wrote that was in the Costco Connection. A woman asked about her husband's plans to cash out both of their 401ks to pay off their home as they near retirement. Although I believe that paying off a mortgage before you retire is a sound move, using up all of your retirement savings is financially risky. Here's what I would ask her before taking this drastic step. If your 401k is traditional, not Roth, do you realize 100% of the money you withdraw from a traditional 401k is taxable? Making a big withdrawal can bump you into a higher tax bracket, and taxes can take a big bite out of what's left. I would say Rob Black would agree with that. I would say that most financial people would agree with that. Let's say you need $100,000 to pay off your mortgage. If you are in the 22% tax bracket, you will need to withdraw around $122,000 to pay the what? Wait, what? Tax brackets, my friend. Is your home a fit for an older you? Take a clear-eyed look at whether your current home is a good place to get older. Is there lots of stairs, lots of upkeep? Both become harder to navigate as you go. Somebody pointed out, and this guy is really conservative. He said, you know what? Don't worry about that whole staircase thing as you get older. Just put in an elevator. He goes, you would be surprised how cheap an elevator is. Yeah, but what if it breaks down? And that is so ironic that Prince died in an elevator, isn't it? When he had that song, Let's Go Crazy. And when the elevator tries to break you down, go crazy. That's what he wrote. Oh, by the way, he's coming out with an album, even though he's gone. His album has a lot of material that was never released. And then it's also going to have a DVD of a concert he did that was never released in 2011 And he does all of his classics, but then he does other people's stuff. And I find it interesting. He does a song by Roxy Music, and he does a song by Indie.RE. And I don't know what songs they are, but that fascinates me. Prince. And if you still have not seen it, everybody probably has. On YouTube, there's one of the last performances he did where he did While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And there he is on stage with also someone who is no longer with us, Tom Petty. And Jeff Lynne, who wrote the song with Tom Petty, Free Fallin', and did one of the best albums Tom Petty ever did, Full Moon Fever. Which, by the way, it's just a Tom Petty album. Even though members of the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, some of the Heartbreakers perform on the songs, but it is labeled just as a Tom Petty album. But that album is phenomenal, and it's got great videos. I finally watched the video to Free Fallin' the other day, and I love it because it was done in the late 80s, and I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, was in the San Fernando Valley in the 70s and early 80s, and I see some of the spots that I remember as a kid. And then he did the great animated video for Running Down a Dream. He did the video with Ringo Starr, George Harrison. Yes, half of the Beatles are in the music video for I Won't Back Down, as well as the guy from the Heartbreakers, his guitarist, and Jeff Lynne, who produced it and co-wrote with him. He has a great song called You're So Bad that has a funny video. Oh, he was so great. Tom Petty. So Prince died in an elevator. Anyway, Cafe Anyway. Outside a Cafe Anyway, somewhere in Podcaster Valleyton. If you aren't in an area with terrific public transportation or ride sharing, think not just about your own ability to drive, but your friends as well. Will they be able to visit it as often? One of the cool things about where I live in Podcaster Valley is I got 2 buses that pass by me once an hour, at the top of the hour or the end of the hour, however you look at it. It's at the beginning of the hour. There's 2 buses, one going one direction, one going another. So in some ways, I don't think I'd ever want to sell this house. And I love the Bay Area. And if I sold the house, I would have to find somewhere else to live. And it's going to be probably more expensive. Can you cover your essential fixed costs from guaranteed income? If you have enough guaranteed income to cover the bills today, Susie Orman's next question is, what about 20 years from now? Prices rise over time. That's true. Without any retirement savings, how will you cover rising costs? If you're a 20-something, time is your greatest advantage when it comes to investing. If you invest $500 a month starting at age 25, and you have more than you will have, check this out, you will have, if you do that, $1.3 million by the age of 65, assuming a 75% annualized return, which is what financial advisors try to get you, is that 7% return. Your contributions will total $240,000 over the 40 years. The rest will be earnings on your money. But let's say you wait until you are 45 to start saving. To land at 65 with the same $1.3 million, you will need to save $2,500 a month. Dang. That's a total of $600,000 over the 20 years. Fascinating. Thank you, Susie Orman. Okay, here, I wanted to point this out. Let's say you're working somewhere that you are thinking about leaving. That maybe was the topic earlier in this podcast. Cleanliness. And one thing about this vaccine that I hate is it gave me a migraine yesterday. I haven't had a migraine since my 30s, and I feel like my eyes are going weird. I don't know if that's a thing of the Moderna, but I've had weird sensitivity to light lately that may have caused the migraine. I don't know what, but hey, if you need a little music to soothe you after you've had the first vaccine or the second, And I know lots of people who've been fully vaccinated by now. And that's just amazing to me. That's great. That says to you conspirators out there, you conspiracy theorists, you are so in the minority. And maybe that's why you all cling together, because you're like, oh, the mainstream media doesn't talk about this stuff. I'm privy. I'm smart and everybody's stupid. But just keep this in mind, is everybody else is completely thinking you're an idiot and you need to get with the program. I mean, I wish I didn't have this migraine or these migraines that pop up now. Or I only had one. Kind of felt like I was going to get one today, but it didn't happen. But at the same time, I don't want the coronavirus. Okay. Clinginess is a type of adherence that prevents one from releasing something out of one's hand or off one's fingertips. Yes. Oh, and today, by the way, is episode 2234. 2234. And yes, we have not been as daily as I would like to be with this podcast, and that is mainly because yours truly got a little bit sick from that Moderna this week. So I will try to be more regular with the podcasts. But catch all the past podcasts at mikesdailypodcast.com and catch that link to listen to that show that I'll be doing, my music show, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow and every Sunday. There's a link to where you can listen to that online at mikesdailypodcast.com. So, clinginess is a type of adherence that prevents one from releasing something out of one's hand or off one's fingertips, like a light piece of paper or a cellophane wrapper that stays attached, or duct tape. One might shake one's hand, but static electricity or an adhesive allows it to persistently hang on. If one attempts to remove it with the other hand, it clings there too. Clinginess is a good thing when applied as a part of a wrapping or package, but it becomes a nuisance when it's not performing according to its original purpose. Often, failure and success behave in the same way. For example, letting go of failure is something we have been told to do. Releasing and forgetting it so it no longer impedes us is good advice, and we get it. Moderna. Who's here today? Oh, that's why I have a root beer next to me. The Brewmaster poured it already. Thank you, Brewmaster. We'll talk to them in a moment. And often failure and success behave in the same way. For example, letting go of failure is something we have been told to do. Releasing and forgetting it so it no longer impedes us is good advice, and we get it. We have all failed at something, and letting failure drag us down is self-defeating. But not letting go of success can also be self-defeating. Moving on isn't easy, particularly when a success has contributed to the formation of our self-image and how we view the present and future. Motivational speakers have made a great deal of money helping people let go and move on from career and family setbacks, divorce, job loss, and even someone's death. But I'm speaking from the first person E. Arthur Self, PhD, who wrote this book, Good Success, Learning Good Lessons from Bad Leaders. So E. Arthur Self says, I'd like to thank you for giving me the best day of my life. But I have yet to hear a motivational speaker insist that one move on from success. Past successes become illusionary and more difficult to turn loose than a failure. Supervisory level leaders are apt to cling to success as much, if not, than those in the C-suite or boardroom. But there is no level of an organization at which clinging to success for too long remains an effective strategy. When clinging to success becomes a behavior for lower-level leaders, operational stagnancy could result. Who hasn't heard the phrase, "But we've always done it this way"? Depending on a past success has a tendency to percolate both upwards and downwards within the organization or institution. Clinging to the right things for too long makes them wrong. Wow. That's, I meet a lot of people like that in show business. I once performed on stage with Molly Ringwald. Or, I once had a 5-minute conversation with Jane Wheatland from the Go-Go's. Which is true, I did. And all I said to her was I had watched her music video that she had just come out with, and she said thanks. And that's what. So why? That's not success, Mike. I don't know why I went that direction. Jane Wheatland. She was in the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. She played Joan of Arc. All right. That's all to say. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast today. We're outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valleyton. Hi, Mark. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing? It's a Disgruntled Fiddle Player. Tell you what. What? I once was on a horse, and it took me to a destination. Wow. Holding on to success. Isn't that great? Look who else is here. Oh, man, can I make the delicious root beer hair some right now? Oh, man. Yay. Yeah. The person that does the whole thing at the end of the show, A-Frame, she was a theater major at Berkeley. And she told me, I do not like taking these classes because they're taught by these people that are failed actors, and they basically get up there on stage and talk about how they're big success stories, which maybe they were on stage once at some place, but what have you done lately, basically? And they're teaching a class, those who can't teach. But hey, people need to be taught. It just take the stupid stories out, except if they're about Jane Wheatland and having a great conversation about. Jane Wheatland was in the Go-Go's. She actually sings the song. Is it the Our Lips Are Sealed? I think she sings in that one. Next show, it's going to be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. You can tell me what you think about any of this. 336mm daily. 3 + 3 = 6. MM is in Mike Matthews. Daily isn't what this podcast will try to be from here on out. Oh, quick. 2 news stories real quick. House Republicans America First Caucus was ended by Georgia GOP Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene today, just 1 day after its policy proposal was first shared online. Greene, alongside Republican Representative Paul Gosar of Arizona, confirmed the co-creation of the America First Caucus yesterday. Later that day, a leaked America First Caucus proposal shared by Punchbowl News drew widespread criticism and outrage. The group's 7-page policy document calls for a common respect for uniquely Anglo-Saxon political traditions and an architectural style that benefits the progeny of European architecture. In a statement to CNN on Saturday afternoon, Greene's spokesperson Nick Dyer said that she is not launching anything. The Congresswoman wants to make clear that she's not launching anything. This was an early planning proposal and nothing was agreed to or approved. She didn't approve that language and has no plans to launch anything. This according to Newsweek. Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida announced that he would join the caucus yesterday. In a tweet, he said, "I'm proud to join Greene in the America First caucus, we will end wars, stop illegal immigration, and promote trade that is fair to American workers. The America First caucus proposal was immediately met with criticism from lawmakers on both sides of the political aisle. Democrat Representative Raja Krishnamurthy of Illinois said, "It sounds like the Ku Klux Klan caucus to me." And there was a plane, speaking of Florida and Matt Gaetz, a World War II era aircraft was forced to make an emergency landing in the ocean during the Cocoa Beach Air Show today. And it was part of a warbird parade. It was a TBM Avenger. It had a mechanical issue, and the pilot was able to bring the plane down close to the shore. The video is pretty interesting. Rescue personnel were immediately on the scene. The pilot was okay. Video shows the plane drifting down over swimmers before splashing into the ocean right in front of spectators. No injuries were reported on the ground or the water. There we go. Next show. Yes, it's going to be Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. Thank you for listening.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!